here later. It's going to say this hangout on air is live. That's what it says. And all right, so a couple days ago, I published a post saying that I was going to build a little trading application in Xamarin.Forms, and I'm going to have F# as my primary language to build it with. And I have to be honest, if building mobile apps using F#, or specifically if building a Xamarin.Forms application using F# is considered leading edge, then I am suffering from, 1,000 paper cuts and I'm bleeding out. That probably sounds extreme, but I've struggled for a good amount of time yesterday and this morning, just trying to get my debugger to work. Like as I have my Android, or in this case, my Xamarin.Forms application, that project is in C#. Basically interact with my F# code or invoke operations that are written in F#. And I struggle to get things to work. I was on Stack Overflow, screaming, crying, and it eventually worked, and I have no clue why or how. It just randomly, the issue went away. And I'm not comfortable with that. So, in short, I've been attempting to go full throttle in Xamarin.Forms, harnessing F#, and the development experience for me personally has been, it's not nice to say horrible. I'll just say challenging, right? So, what do I want to discuss? In the post before, I posted something like a couple of days ago. I was discussing the architecture, right? And I was inspired by Robert C. Martin, aka Uncle Bob, clean architecture, and that resonates with me. So I might touch a little bit on that, but then I'm gonna go over my workflow of actually writing code. And this is something that has changed recently, where I was hardcore TDD, which I still am. But when I migrated over to F#, I went from fleshing out all my types before I actually write logic or functions to writing functions that ultimately are going to flesh out my types. And I think that strategy is working out a lot better for me. Leveraging the REPL a lot more. As of right now, I don't have any unit tests, and that's okay because I will. And whenever I'm working for a client, I will always have a test suite, period. But let me just go ahead and share my screen, and I'll just try to quickly go over my progress. And I just want this to be a series. And then sooner or later, maybe I'll have Skynet as a trading system. All right, so how do I share my screen? Come here. Come here. All right, full screen. Start screen share. I see I have a viewer, which means I probably should check if there's any comments on here. I just noticed I'm not wearing my headset. All right. Anyway, I'm sharing my screen. And, all right, so let me close all this out. Let me close it out. Close all documents. Let me launch this application. Can't believe I forgot my headset. Whatever. All right. So as I'm launching the application, yeah, maybe I should check. Maybe I should check to see if there's any feedback. Yo, show me feedback. Pause that. My emulator should. Oh, what the freak? Hit run. Why is this taking so long? Emulator, why are you taking so long? All right, so my emulator is doing something. Why is it when I guess I am doing a video recording, so that's probably why it's, yeah, so this is really Cookie, you gonna bark when I'm trying to do a presentation? All right, so this is what I'm talking about. Let me let my dog out real fast. So when I say death by 1,000 paper cuts, here, please, hurry up. This is one example as I share my screen, is like I'm getting all these exceptions, right? And at first I'm like, oh crap, where did this exception come from? And I was stuck on this one dialog box. My dog is dancing in front of me, trying to compete for attention. So I was stuck on here, and I hit continue, and same exception, at least the pattern of it, right? And I can tell this related to F# because I'm looking at this droid files and then yada yada, and then F#.core resources DLL. I looked all over the internet to figure out where this resources DLL could be located. I didn't see anything. But again, because I saw this exception, I never bothered to continue because I just assumed that my application was just broke. But anyway, I learned that you can continue, which I'm not a fan of. So I hit continue again, and my emulator finally reflects the application, right? And so in this case, as I said, this is like me building a sample trading application in which it's going to load in some stocks. So specifically, this landing page is going to reflect a user's investments, aka portfolio. And they can, this is the first thing that they see. They can select, boom, as soon as you select an item, right, or a stock, then this buy more or sell, these buttons become enabled, right? And that is done through my XAML. So if I control comma is a shortcut to navigate to files. If I say, what's this called? Home page, the freak, man, what's wrong with my typing? Home page, well, it's called home XAML. I need to rename that file to homepage.xaml. That code, those buttons being enabled based on a list view item selection is based on this logic right here, okay? Which is kind of different from the way that I used Cookie. Why are you licking my ear? Which is kind of different from the way that I used to write XAML, because in the past I used to actually create within my or add a property within my view model called selected item, and then I would have my button, one of its properties, in this case enabled, bind to is selected, and then I would create a value converter. In this case, I still have a value converter called instance to bool converter, in which if the current instance that is selected within my, how do I say this? My dog is attacking me. How do I say this? The thought process behind this is enabled binding is basically it's going to reference as a source my list view. My dog is eating my arm. I can't concentrate. So this list view is called shares list view, right? And so my button is binding to the shares list view via the source property, and the path is selected item, right? But I go further down, and it's really selected item.shares.symbol. I'm gonna have to start over this whole thing. Let me silence my phone. So anyway, that's how my buttons become enabled or disabled. In this case, once they're disabled, they become forever enabled as soon as you select the item. Yeah, I'm gonna have to delete this video. But also something that is interesting is because this button is data bound to an item within the list view when it's selected, this is where my command parameter comes in at. This command parameter, again, it binds to this list view, and it will actually send or provide the actual symbol. For example, the Microsoft symbol, or the Rockwell Automation symbol, or the Tesla symbol. Again, you know, Microsoft, Rockwell Automation, Tesla. It will actually provide that as an argument within my iCommand property on my view model. And so iCommand property on my view model, what's that? Well, okay, I should have a home view model. Come here, come here, come here. Yeah, this right here. My dog stopped attacking me. She's just looking at me right now. And essentially, these are our commands, right? I didn't implement the search yet on that landing page, but the sell and buy command, well, these are essentially iCommands, right? They implement the iCommand interface. And what I meant to say is this parameter right here, that is O for object, this is mapped to, come here, come here, come here. This is mapped to the actual command parameter, right? So when this gets executed, cookie stop. When this gets executed, we actually take the argument that comes in from that command being invoked, and we cast it into a string using the downcast operator. I think that's right, because it's an object and we're downcasting it within the hierarchy tree to a string type. All right, I think I got that part right. And so that's how we cast it. We know it's a symbol, but within the command, it's just of type object. So we have to cast it down to a symbol. And that's how things work. Now, I said that using F# with the Xamarin.Forms application, I was struggling with my debugger. Like, somehow it just started working, but not all parts of it actually works. So I'm curious, when I hit the sell button on my emulator, I'm curious if this is actually going to trigger, right? Because I'm presenting, it probably won't, right? Cookie, get off me. So when I hit the sell, yeah, it never triggers, but it performs the navigation, right? So when I go back, you see that it's on pretty much a blank page, but it was able to display Tesla, which should have been the last selected item that I chose. If I do ROK, right? If I do Microsoft, come here, Microsoft. So this is actually going to be the sell shares page, in which I'm actually going to provide some control, more than likely an edit box, so that the user can provide the number of shares that they wish to sell, and then they can go ahead and confirm. I'm not sure if that's going to be on the same page or a different page. Maybe it'll be an alert that displays on this window. And then once they confirm that they want to go ahead with that transaction, then that's probably going to lead them to another page, which is you know, I don't know, a transaction page or a summary page of that request being sent. So that's pretty much it. What else do I want to talk about? Well, let's talk. I talked a little bit about my XAML. Let me see if the person is still watching. It's probably not. Where am I at? Yeah, live chat. No, I don't have any comments on here yet. All right, cool. So let me go back. So my XAML is responsible for the user interface that you see over here, right? That pretty thing. I don't know if it's pretty, but this is the actual XAML that sits behind that UI at runtime. Okay, there's a couple things that I leverage, such as a value converter, right? In this case, this XML NS is actually, I don't know if you call it a markup extension, you call it something, and these are actually going to reflect the various namespaces, right? So you have you're able to reference a namespace, and then within your XAML, you can take a namespace such as home, and you can actually retrieve an instance of one of the objects or classes that are in that namespace. I hope I said that right. Anyway, here's my grid. So how do I kill this? My grid is basically, I'm using two grids. One grid is representing the header. So what do I mean by header? Specifically, the various column headers for the stocks: symbol, quantity, price, total, right? That is going to be one grid, and then the other grid is going to be the actual, it's going to reflect the actual data, right? And so as a result, they pretty much have the same signature, for lack of a better term, meaning that each of the grids are going to have, well, based on columns, they're going to, that's not even right. What am I looking at? That's not the grid. This is the overall containing grid that contains the whole UI, right? What I meant to say is, this is, there we go. This is the grid that represents the various column headers, right? Hence, list view.header. I'm able to establish the columns in here. My dog is eating my kneecap. And then this other grid within the item template, which is over here, list view item template. I have a data template, view cell, and then grid over here. That has the same number of columns. And that's where I actually put in the actual data, the actual stocks, in which it's going to be symbol of the stock, let me go back, the quantity that's owned, the current price of the stock, and the total value of the shares that the owner has. Again, this is the landing page. And so, I mean, that's essentially it. All this is on my GitHub account. If people want to look at it, it's the name of this solution on GitHub is called Effin Trade. Effin as in, well, maybe I could take you there. Come here, come here. Where you at, GitHub? Right here. It's called Effin Trade. Effin is short for function. So I thought it was a cute name. Anyway, let me go back. So that's my XAML. If I want to dig deeper, yeah, we probably want to look at the view model. The view model is basically commands and properties. Well, the commands are a property. My view model is essentially a load operation and various properties. So for example, your symbol, stock value or stock info, and investments. This investments is actually what we see when we see the Microsoft item, the Rockwell item, and the Tesla item. That comes from this investments collection. And my dog is still biting me. And that stuff gets populated in this load operation. So this load operation actually gets called once my page gets loaded. There's a virtual think it's a virtual, either virtual or abstract method called on appearing, in which you can override it, and it's from there that I actually load in or invoke this load operation. So specifically, yeah, I'm gonna have to delete this video. Specifically, if I go to my home dot, should be home CS. Where am I at? Where's no, go back. If I go to home.cs, this is a home page. Home. Oh, why is my computer so? I'll go to homepage.cs and come here. Why is this rocket science? Here, type here. Yeah. So on my homepage, this is the actual code behind of my XAML file. So if I hit Control-Alt-L, you will see this right here, home.xaml, and then home XAML CS. Let me pin my Solution Explorer down here. On appearing, this is, from my understanding, the method that will get called that will basically enable a developer to do some more logic, because the code, the actual interface has been loaded already. That's my understanding. I'm not confident in my understanding, but I could research it. This is Xamarin.Forms approach that's related to WPF's page loaded event, except Xamarin.Forms doesn't provide an event for the page being loaded. Instead, they provide a method that you can override called on appearing. So this is how I actually load in the investments. I call this ViewModel.load, which leads me to my next pain point or discovery. Is I've learned that usually within XAML files, like I could go up here, my dog is eating my toe now. Usually within XAML files, I like to, yeah, and I do it right here. I like to actually define my binding context within my XAML itself and reference the view model within my XAML instead of having code behind. But I've noticed that that doesn't always work, and I haven't figured out why. So in other, for example, within the cell page, I attempted to basically assign my binding context within my XAML, similar to how I do in the home page, and it just throws all these crazy exceptions, which leads me to now, basically, how do I say this? It leads me to now, whenever I run into issues that I don't have much information on in regards to XAML related exceptions, in which I get absolutely no information about what really happened. It just doesn't work anymore. I try to immediately, instead of trying to figure out why my XAML is not working, I try to immediately do the same thing within the code behind. And so I'll, instead of establishing my binding context within XAML and not being able to see the page get loaded and have and observe the data bindings between the XAML and my view model, if I can't observe that and I get some crazy unhandled exception message and it has no other information about it, hence context, then I'll just go ahead and I'll stop trying to do it in the XAML file, and I'll just see if I could, whatever I'm trying to accomplish in XAML, I'll just try to do it in code behind. And that's usually where I find, issues or mistakes that I've made. And so that's just something that I've learned based on this exercise. So, okay, so I've talked about my little discovery. I discussed the code behind in which I actually load data. And is there anything else? This could be a really lengthy video or commentary. Yeah, do I really want to go into this? We can look at the load over here, and that's probably not what I want to do. I don't want to see the. Yeah, that's something else that I noticed. Another pain point is the fact that within uh, within my Xamarin.Forms application, which is this right here, you notice that it's in C sharp. For whatever reason, I am unable to reference F sharp projects from a C sharp project. Meaning, normally I would go to, the references of my C sharp project, and I would, if I kill that app, if I would go to my Xamarin.Forms app that's in the form of a C sharp project and go to add reference, usually I would select the projects tab or category, and then I would just, select uh, a project that just happens to be written in F sharp. But when you attempt to do this, it complains saying unable to add a reference to project. Portable library projects can only reference other portable library projects. And the thing is all these F sharp projects, with the exception of my test project, are portable class libraries. So that error message is misleading. But the way to get around that is, instead of adding a reference to another project within your solution, like the way that I attempted to, I found that the workaround is to browse to the actual DLL that's in your bin debug folder. And then you're able to reference whatever F sharp projects from your Xamarin.Forms project that is in C sharp. So that's something else that I struggle with. Cancel that. Is there anything else I want to talk about? So that was another paper cut that I received. And yeah, Cookie, get off me, man. All right, so next is, if I look at this home view model and I look at the load operation, or in this case, method, we see that we use a broker, and we say broker dot investments of, and I pass in some arbitrary account ID. This broker is actually an instance that is responsible for giving me, or basically it's an instance that's responsible for executing queries. How about that? So this broker is really an interface. Well, ultimately, it's going to be an interface that will, based on whatever concrete implementation, will have the ability to execute queries over the wire, or just give me data from my test API library, which is down. Cookie, get off me. Which is down here. My dog is eating my arm. This test API library down here. So when we look at broker, we have this. I have a class called factory. I have a file called factories, and that's contained over here. My module integration factories, and this is just ultimately this factories file or module is going to ultimately rely on a configuration file, and it's going to check to see if the configuration of this application is to run in isolation, meaning that we don't rely on any external systems for getting data or requesting data, or if it's in integration mode, meaning that we do rely on web services for data retrieval, etc. So that's what this factory is ultimately going to do. But as of right now, I'm just going to get my app to run in isolation without thinking about all these details of web services. And so this factories module has a Git dispatcher, which ultimately manages events such as navigation. Git broker is what I'm going to talk about, and also Git account ID, which is an arbitrary ID to represent the user so that they can view their private information. This broker, mock broker, this mock broker is actually, well, it's a mock implementation of this iBroker interface. If I drill down to this iBroker interface, this is what it looks like so far. Again, you think about stocks, you think about a broker. And so my thought process is a broker is going to provide you information regarding the stock, and they're also going to facilitate trading transactions, such as purchasing shares of stock or selling shares of stock. And that's pretty much it. Investments of string is you passing in the, what do I use this investments for? Oh yeah. This was part. This is to support within my view model, reflecting the investments of the owner. So that's my iBroker interface, and you can see how it can be implemented by this mock broker class, in which, well, this is essentially it. I just create some mock data. I use pattern matching to see if a symbol passed in matches one of the symbols that I've hard coded, and it just creates some arbitrary data. And here's a try purchase, try sell. All this again is on my GitHub, so people can drill into it and provide feedback on everything I did that was that could be done better. Investments of right here. That's what it looks like. This is just going to return the portfolio essentially, or the various shares of stocks that's owned by the person that's using the application. All right, and my dispatcher is also within the services library. And this dispatcher is basically going to harbor the declared events, such as when a sell is requested for shares or a buy is requested for shares. And that is used, let me see, that is used within my view model. So when they hit remember when I launched the emulator, you could select a stock, and then you could sell or buy. Well, that dispatcher is used there on that command, in which it's going to go ahead and invoke the sell operation, and the code behind of my app actually subscribes to the sell event. And as a result, when that sell event is triggered, the code behind on my application is going to perform a navigation to the sales page. So again, when you come here, continue. So you notice how this is disabled right now. You go ahead and select the item. Now when you hit sell, when you hit the sell button right here, that, what I was attempting to say, is going to ultimately execute the sell command. and that's going to trigger an event to sell in my application code behind app.xaml.cs. Actually, we subscribe to the sell requested, right? This is my application logic. It's going to have a subscription to the sell requested, and when it receives a notification that a sell has been requested, we then do a navigation to the sell page, and we pass in the view model that the sell page relies on. And we pass in the context of what we're selling, which is essentially the account ID of the owner and also the actual stock symbol. And you can see that here. If I drill into the definition of owner, we see the account ID and symbol, but you probably didn't want to see the metadata representation of that. You probably wanted to see the actual owner, which is defined right here. And that is how it works. So making a long story short, my application logic is responsible for navigation, right? And so I'm going to put all the various events related to the need to navigate on this on start method that we overrode. So sell requested, buy requested, etc. All that stuff is going to go here. And we provide the payload into the view model that the page that we're going to load relies on. And that's pretty much it. So again, this is a I don't know if it's work in process or work in progress. Whatever the right terminology is, that's what this is. And I can't really talk about anything about testing because I haven't written any of these tests, but I have created the test API library, which I already discussed as mock broker. All right, that was a rough cut, something I probably need to redo. I don't see anything over here. Did the person leave yet? Yep, I think the person left. All right, so that's it. How do I go back to me? How do I go back to me? Where is this at? Stop. And that's it. So I'm about to take this video and I'm going to update my most recent blog post with this video. And that's going to be the commentary based on the various code snippets that's in the blog post. That's it. So I was going to talk about my dog the whole time and whatever. So hit the stop broadcast button. Adios, te veo a ratito. No.